My name is Jill Phillips, and I'm the creator of Whose Shoes, a popular approach to co-production. I was named as an HSJ 100 wildcard and want to help give a voice to others, talking about their ideas and experiences. I'll be chatting with people from all sorts of different perspectives, walking in their shoes. If you are interested in the future of healthcare and like to hear what other people think, or perhaps even contribute at some point, Whose Shoes Wildcard is for you. So today I have the huge pleasure of talking to Dr Terri Porrett, otherwise known as the Blonde. I'm sure Terri will tell us more about that as we go. A specialist nurse and head of education for the ostomy division at Coloplast, Terri has huge experience, and today we'll be talking about her fabulous work at Fab NHS staff. Never one to take no for an answer, I'm told that grit and determination are your middle names, Terri, and possibly even belligerent.
Absolutely.
All in all, a perfect wild card. So thank you for joining us, Terri. Welcome. And can you tell us a bit more about yourself and what's important to you?
Well, thank you, Jill, and it's such a pleasure to be here. So as Jill said, my name's Terri Porrett. I am a nurse and was one of these young people that growing up at the age of 5 announced to everybody that I was going to be a nurse. Had no idea actually what nursing was about other than what you see on the telly and cartoons of nurses and things. But actually, I've never, ever regretted that decision to go to nursing school. I was meant to be a nurse. I feel that's why I'm here. That doesn't mean I'm the best nurse in the whole world, but it means that this is what I think I was put here to do. I think we all make a difference in our own ways, and I was meant to be a nurse. I started my training at the London Hospital in Whitechapel, and I have to say, on the first day in nursing school, when a rather scary matron was talking to us about what nursing entailed, and she was talking about night duty. And I sat there and suddenly thought, really? You have to do nights? Which shows you how much I had considered what the role would entail. But I loved every minute of my training. And actually, as a student nurse, one of the very early wards that I worked on was a colorectal ward. And I saw people who were having surgery for their bowel cancer, and they were having a stoma, and then they were leaving hospital and there was nothing, and there was no support for them. The ward sister ran a clinic on the ward, and if they had a problem they'd come up, and she had like a little broom cupboard with bits and pieces in it. And I thought, oh my word, we must be able to do this better. When I qualify, I want to do this. And when I qualified, I worked on a variety of colorectal, gastrointestinal wards. I even worked in the operating theatres, the colorectal theatres, because I thought, if I'm going to support people I need to actually understand the operations. So I did all of that as a staff nurse, and my aim was to be a ward sister at St Mark's Hospital. I hadn't really thought past being a ward sister, because that was the pinnacle of a kind of nursing career in my eyes at that stage. And St Mark's Hospital was the specialist hospital for the country for complex bowel problems. And I became Sister Allingham at St Mark's Hospital. And for the first year or so, I thought, I loved every minute of it. I loved being a ward sister, the team kind of working, the planning, getting to know your staff and changing kind of the provision of services to patients. And then the more I understood about stoma care, the more I understood that actually everything that we do in hospital is great, but a person who's 18 and is going to live the rest of their life with a stoma spends 1% of their life with a stoma in hospital. The other 99% is in the community. And how do we actually ensure that people can live the life they want to lead with a stoma? And they're not defined by the stoma, but the stoma allows them to do what they want to do. So I put in a proposal to the nurse director at St Mark's saying, I think we should have a second stoma care nurse here, because actually when she goes on holiday, we all kind of try and cover as ward sisters, but there's only one of her, and this is really, really important. And she came up to see me and she said, "That's a really good idea. Would you like to do it?" Because it was then an EMB 216 course. It was 9 weeks. "Would you like to do it? And as the ward sister, would you like to cover and come out of the ward for the periods of annual leave or sickness and cover this service?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." Well, that was my first introduction to actually not being popular, because I saw that there was an issue. I put it in writing, but I was the newest ward sister at St Mark's. The ward sister's been there for many, many years. And they'd talked and identified and as we do as nurses, complained a bit, "Oh, isn't it, but we have to cover this because there aren't." But nobody had actually put it in writing, say, "Look, I think this is an issue. I think we could do a better service for our patients." And then, of course, I was given the opportunity, which didn't make me that popular. But hey, that's life. So that was my first real kind of thinking that actually, as nurses, we can whinge quite a lot. I mean, we can complain. We're human beings. We're tired. We get, stressed by the situation. But if we're not prepared to suggest how we can make things better, then just stop whinging. So either stop whinging or make a suggestion of how we can improve this, because there's always a way that we can do something differently. And that really has shaped the rest of my career. So I did this EMB 216 and became a stomach care nurse and was a ward sister and covered the service when the stomach care nurse was away. Absolutely loved it. At the time, the Homerton Hospital was part of a foundation trust with St Mark's and Bart's Hospital, and they advertised for a clinical nurse specialist in stomach care to set up a service at the Homerton. So I said to my boss at St Mark's, I'd really like to go and do that, and it would give me the opportunity to do the community side of things. And she went, "No, go and do that." So I applied, I got the job, I went to the Homerton, and I said to her, and I said, 2 years and I'll be back. I'd like to be a senior, I will come back with this. And 20 years later, I was still at the Homerton because I had had the opportunity to change how services were delivered for patients by listening to patients, by involving patients, and by being able to grow the service. So when I started at the Homerton, it was me, a stomach care nurse. And when I left 20 years later, we had the bowel cancer screening practitioners. I had the continence nurse specialist, because obviously pelvic floor and incontinence issues are across the board. I had an inflammatory bowel disease nurse. I had a research fellow. I had a colorectal cancer nurse. All grown because I could make a case to the trust board about why people with conditions that are often identified as being socially isolating. There's a huge amount of stigma associated with poo. I think it's one of the last big taboos is we don't like to talk about it. And so 20 years later, I was still there. I have to say the Homerton was a fabulous place to work. A district general hospital, a hugely varied multicultural society, so many different languages, cultures, beliefs to incorporate into our care. I loved every single minute of it. And being challenged to go, okay, well, we're delivering this service and it's fantastic, but actually all the advice I give around diet and how to control out either fecal output if you have incontinence or if you have a stoma, and I don't understand what a Turkish or Kurdish diet is. I can't suggest the right vegetables. I don't understand. So although I can do it if you like, within my culture and my dietary kind of base, I can't do this for somebody else. But then being able to ring the imam and have an hour with the imam and the health advocates who then actually allowed us took us shopping, showed me vegetables that I'd seen, but I didn't even know their names, explain whether they were high or low in fibre. So I think we can make such a difference if we're just prepared to go, this isn't perfect, but in these simple steps, I can begin to make it better. So I do think we have to have the courage of our convictions, which I think is where the grit and determination bit that you were talking about me comes in, because if you have an idea and somebody says no, I always believe that doesn't mean never. It means I just haven't explained it well enough for that person to understand why it's important. So it's my responsibility to position it differently. And within my team, we had two sayings in my team at the Homertons. So the first thing is we don't do failure. We might have limited degrees of success, but we don't do failure. Because failure is just going, oh, that didn't work, and forgetting about it, not learning from it and doing it differently. So we don't do failure. And actually, we can always turn adversity to advantage. So that kind of was my, defines me as a nurse, I think, just thinking you don't have to do a multi-centre international randomised control trial to make a difference. There are small things that you can do and test, and incrementally you can have as big an impact. Yeah.
Thanks, Terry. I think it's really fascinating, and it makes so much sense in terms of what I know about you. It's so interesting to hear people's personal stories and what's led them to what people see of you today. And just as you're talking, I mean, inevitably various sort of things are resonating with me. A couple of them personal, actually. So I remember the MatX workshop that we did at Homerton with very warm feelings. I remember the chief exec coming in towards the end, and there wasn't a seat for her, and she stood up, and so
was
did a
that
gang
Nancy?
It was is it Tracy?
Yes, yeah.
And I think Joan was head of midwifery. It's sort of bringing back memories, but I just remember this long narrow room. It wasn't an ideal room. There was a little girl helping Anna with the pens. The conversations were just absolutely buzzing, and I think the exec team meeting or something had finished during our workshop, and they'd all come in to see what was happening, and I think they looked quite shocked actually that there were so many people, and you couldn't just come in and sit, you had to just join in with what was happening. So that was Homerton, and that was, I can see that was a special, very multicultural, all the things that you've said, and I've just had that picture. And the other one, which is a crazy sort of memory that I'd forgotten that I even remembered, as in my early career I did a diploma in management studies, and part of it involved me going around shops, Asian shops in Leicester, learning about the different vegetables and long thin things and all sorts of things, and just all of what you've just said around diet and culture. And I mean, I just found it fascinating and so much fun to learn things that I just hadn't got a clue about. And I think people need to be more open, don't they, to learning about different cultures, and it's so interesting. And in terms of nursing and what you do to actually understand people's cultures is just critical, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can't deliver individual person-centered care if you don't understand how that person lives, their beliefs, their diet, their family situations, patriarchal, matriarchal kind of societies. You have to understand that. And I suppose it's difficult because we understand our personal culture because that's how we've been brought up. So we haven't had to learn it. But actually, you have to physically make that decision to be as comfortable with other people's culture or beliefs as your own, because otherwise you can't deliver the same care that you would to somebody from your background. And I think the way I've always tried to do that, used to talk to my mum and dad and shock them terribly as a student nurse. Well, I'd explain over dinner all of the things I was doing and injecting and all this kind of thing. And my dad said to me, so how if you get asked to do something when you're a student nurse and you don't really know how to do it, or if you're a staff nurse, how do you deal with that? And I remember saying to him, Dad, all I can do, I say to the person, actually, I'm not the person to do this. I haven't got this good. If it's not good enough for my mum or dad or my brother, then I can't do it. I've always tried in my career to think, what I'm about to do or the service I'm about to offer, is this good enough for a member of my family? And if the answer is no, then I need to do something to change that service or to change my skill level in being able to deliver. So that's always been my guide. And I remember him saying to me, that must be quite tiring having to think like that the whole time. And I went, well, nursing is a safety critical profession. And so you have to think like that.
But it's so simple, isn't it? You know, that shouldn't be difficult to think because, you know, would it be good enough for my mum? And I love the way that sort of caught on in healthcare. I remember Andrea Sutcliffe and the mum test.
Yeah.
And a bit like Hello, My Name Is. It's just so simple, but makes such a difference to people. And one or two of the other things you were saying there, Terry. So I've just been talking, as I think I mentioned to you, to Rachel Grimaldi from Carb Medic. And, you know, we were talking about cultural issues and also mentioned Sunita from Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, who's doing personalised discharge letters now for people. Now, those would be the sort of things, wouldn't they, in terms of, you know, if you were talking about diet, what you could realistically eat rather than just a standard letter.
Exactly.
It's not rocket science, is it?
No. But let's be fair. The situation that most health and care practitioners, health and social care, have gone through in the last 18 months, the emotional trauma stresses of them living and working through the pandemic cannot be over realized. The impact, the draining impact, people are exhausted. So I think more and more it becomes people who are not at the forefront, if you like, of frontline care delivery to step up and go, how can I help you do this? You are using your mental capacity and energy to deliver services. How can I help you do the bits around the edges that you can't do? And I think that's what I'm endeavouring to do in my day job with Coloplast, so deliver educational tools and resources to support specialist nurses, but also with the Academy of Fab stuff, which you alluded to at the beginning, which is a platform where people can share solutions to common problems. And it's based on the theory of positive deviance. So in health and social care, the majority of the problems that we all experience are the same. There might be slight local variations or nuances, but actually some of the challenges, it's affecting the whole of the NHS in England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. So rather than this, or if it wasn't invented here mentality of having to research and pilot and whatever, let's hear from people who have had that problem, what their solution was, and instead of starting with a blank piece of paper, start with their solution and then tweak it to work and test out within your environment. Just don't start with a blank piece of paper, because that's the difficult thing. So I think, it's really important to share. So this became really apparent to me when I was at the Homerton. So when we were developing this team of specialist nurses, I actually wrote this paper to the chief executive at the time and said, look, if you are unfortunate enough to have bowel cancer diagnosed and you need to have a stoma, you get stuck with a stoma care nurse specialist who sees you the whole way through your journey of life with cancer, your cancer treatment pathway. Because you have a stoma, you've got that person to ring up, you've got the advice, you've got somebody to kind of broker your care, dovetail your repeat scans with other appointments. You've got a specialist nurse. If you are unfortunate enough to have bowel cancer diagnosed, have surgery, and are fortunate enough to have your bowel sewn back together again, bye. No, there were no colorectal cancer nurse specialists. So and I wrote and said, look, we talk about equity of access to services. This can't be right. This can't be right. And we need to develop a colorectal cancer nurse role. And then everybody should have the same follow-up following their surgery as they go through their really often quite extensive radiation treatment. They need that support. We can do nurse-led clinics. We can do their follow-ups. And the answer came back, come and talk to us in the board. Tell us a little bit more about this, because this is new. So I went and I spoke and I explained why I thought this could be a nurse-led service complementing and working with our medical colleagues, but this could be nurse-led. And the following day got a letter in writing saying, right, do it. We'll agree you the funding for another stoma care nurse, because you will step away from stoma care and you're going to develop this role. And I thought, oh, okay, that's great. And then I looked around and there were very, very few, because it wasn't, the norm then. So I actually went to the US and had a placement at the Cleveland Clinic in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Learned from them, came back, wrote all the protocols, about nurses doing things like a sigmoidoscopy and, you're doing technical tasks. No, I'm examining this. I'm going to examine the person and then plan their care from that. It's a tool. It's not a kind of a big deal that a nurse is doing something that a doctor normally did. It's how I use that skill to change the service that the patient's going to be offered. And I put everything together in a kind of like a book. So all the guidelines, all the training protocols, because there weren't any nationally, and the Royal College of Nursing and the Association of Coloproctology kind of used it as an exemplar. And nurses used to ring up and say, oh, Terry, we're going to be a colorectal nurse. Have you got anything you can share? Yeah, I've got a whole, everything? Yeah, look, I was fortunate. I was supported to do this for a year. You're in post now. So don't spend hours writing these policies, adapt them. I used to just send them. Just share with everybody. Because why go, yeah, but they're ours, so you've got to write your own. Why would you do that?
Yeah. And it's so helpful. I mean, do you think that culture, obviously, Fab NHS stuff has played a massive part of this? And I know the podcast I did with Carol Munt, we were kind of tearing our hair out a bit that people don't share more. And then, an obvious and very natural shout out for Fab NHS staff. But do you think the norm is now that people will look not to a blank piece of paper, but to look around and see what's already out there and to share with each other?
I think it's getting better, yes. I still think that there is a degree of, that was done at St Elsewhere, and here at St whatever, we're much better, so we'll do our own, So I do think there is that. There is still that, but it's much less. And that leads me to how Fab happened. So okay. I had, through my role at Coloplast, I started working with Professor Alison Leary. She wasn't prof then. And we wanted to develop a resource for specialist nurses to help them demonstrate their value, because I'd got quite au fait with how to write a business plan and how to write an annual report, because I'd asked my brother, who was in business, how to do this. So at the Homerton, when I wanted to grow my service, grow my team, I had to use the language of business. That's, I had to be bilingual. When I want to talk to doctors, if I want to change their practice, I need my paper published in a medical journal because I want to change their practice. I have to do a randomized controlled trial because they'll listen to that. I'll learn the language necessary so that the people who I want to listen to me, who I want to not say no, I've got to present it to them in a way that they can easily say yes. I think that's my job. Rather than say, why don't they understand why I do? Because you're not explaining well enough. You need to tell people what you do. So as specialist nurses, we go on these courses and I'm a clinical expert. Nobody teaches me how to write a job plan. Nobody teaches me how to write an annual report or a business case or do a service summary. Nobody helps me with the language that I use, because in nursing, we have such passive language at times, because our language of how we describe what we do, by the nature of nursing, arose from religious orders. So we have I just did this, I only, basic nursing care. There's nothing basic about it. It's the foundations of which all other care is built. So our language is dreadful, but we don't help us to develop in that way. So Alison Leary and I worked together to build this standalone website. We worked in conjunction with Ulster University, and So it's a website called the Apollo Nursing Resource, and any nurse from any specialty can go onto it, learn how to do a job plan, learn how to do an annual report, how to analyse activity within their service, and it's free for anybody. It just so happened that Roy Lilly, the health writer and commentator, saw on Twitter, I must have tweeted about this Apollo Nursing Resource, and he went and had a look at it, and he obviously thought, oh, this is really good, and he wrote about it in part of an e-letter that he wrote. And on the day that he wrote about it, he nearly broke the website because so many people went to it to have a look, which obviously was fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah.
And then he direct messaged me on Twitter and said, look, I've seen your Apollo website, you and Alice, I think it's fantastic. I've got an idea. Would you, I'd like to do something similar, but for the healthcare in general. Would you come and have a chat with me about it? So we met up, and I have to say I was a little scared because, you know, he has quite a personality through his e-letter. I'd never met him before. And within 15 minutes, we were killing ourselves laughing, actually, because he has a fantastic sense of humour. But he was so focused on, look, in healthcare, lots of problems happen in lots of places, but there's no central place, no repository where people can go to learn from the problems other people have had and how they can solve them. Do you think you could help me make this happen? And I thought, well, that sounds like a really good idea. And said, yeah, definitely.
And so worthwhile.
And he said, what should we call it? I said, oh, I don't know, the Academy. Yeah, the Academy of Fabulous Stuff. Because my whole premise was, as I talked to you back at the beginning, was I didn't want this to appear too I don't mean academic. I didn't want the label or the name of the website to put people off thinking that actually they had something to contribute to this website. I wanted it to be for everybody, not only for audit leads or research leads or QR facilitators. I wanted everybody to feel that this was a place they could go, A, to have a look and browse for solutions, but B, to also share their work. So we've had work shared by porters who've I've emailed them. I said, okay, this is great. I love these 3 bullet points. I think you're talking about A, B and C, and I've scoped it out and worked, because they've never published anything before. My job to make, so what message do you need to get across to people of what you did? I'll help you make that. So we have, from realistically all walks of health and social care, employment, volunteers, visitors, service users, all contribute to the Academy of Fab Stuff. And it's got over 5,000 shares, so 5,000 pieces of work where people have had an issue and they found a solution. And it can be a small thing. Like one of the most impactful things was a community nursing hospital, a ward sister in a community nursing hospital, found that on the patient feedback, noise at night was a big thing, and people couldn't sleep. And so she didn't fill in, loads of forms. She just said, you know what, I've got this money. And she researched it. I'm going to buy all of these slow closing bins. And she replaced all of the bins on the wall with these slow closing ones that don't make a noise. So you can let it go and it doesn't go clang at 2:00 in the morning. And she made these sleep packs. She bought, you can buy them very cheaply, the kind of eye masks and the foam ear things that you get on an aeroplane. And for people that were light sleepers, she offered them these sleep packs. And the next patient survey came out, and the complaints about not being able to sleep at night had gone from being like 7 out of 10 respondents complained about noise at night to nobody complaining at noise.
That's amazing.
And she shared about these slow closing bins. We tweeted about it. She was inundated. It's one of the most read shares. It's a tiny thing. that many
everyone can
people
relate
would
to.
fit. Yeah, but many
Yeah.
people, oh, really? It was a bin. It's not like it was, you haven't cured cancer. No, but for every single patient on that ward, that is a big deal. And if you put all of these little things together, it really changes the person's experience of living with their illness. Because people have often said to me, okay, Terry, you're a nurse, you did your master's, you did your PhD. Don't you wish you'd been a doctor? No, I've always wanted to be a nurse. I'm meant to be a nurse. Yeah, but, and cure things. Well, very few things can we cure. We can treat things, but my nursing interventions can treat things and make things better for. And whilst we're so hung up on trying to cure things, we're missing the point for the 95% of people that are having to live with diabetes, live with chronic obstructive airway, live with renal failure. I can't cure it. How can I make it the best possible? And that's what I can do as a nurse. And it's these little things that really make that so important, I think, because that improves quality of life.
And I think that's just so amazing. That like last minute or something needs to be captured on its own in terms of, why would you be a nurse rather than a doctor? It's been so like eye-opening for me in a way, just to sort of hear that, and the 99% of your life that you're just living your life with whatever condition you've got and doing the best you can do. The other thing that's been a massive kind of light bulb for me is, as a small business with Who She Is, we find it difficult to capture and follow up all the different outcomes. Flo and I are doing a report for the RCOG at the moment, and we need to include in the outcomes, and we've got books of actual case studies from our bigger projects, and I need to check, they need to be on Fab NHS stuff. I think they are. But what we do at all of our workshops is encourage individuals to make pledges. And we should be saying as a regular thing, whatever you do as a result of this, even if it's only a little thing. And the way you describe the work with the porters and so on, Terry can help you if necessary. Yeah. Just capture that snippet. It doesn't need to be a massive project, does it?
No, absolutely. Or you can be halfway through a change and you've got stuck and you don't know what to do next.
Yes.
Tell us. We'll put you in touch with people that have been there. So it's even if you haven't finished and you've got stuck, ask, because there'll be somebody else who got stuck and has found a solution. So let's put you together.
We need to do a little mini project there, I think, just to point some of these amazing people, like, say, Sarah Jane Pedler in Cornwall. They've done Who She's workshops each year around big topics. All of them have collected pledges. All of them have collected outcomes. Yeah. That's the sort of thing that should be fed through, and they do just amazing work.
Absolutely, Jo, and I can make you a campaign page. All of this can go in one central place. So all we'd need to do so when we want to refer people to this, one page, one campaign page, and they will find everything with this hashtag on that one page. We can even sort it. It's so simple to do. Change Day, Fab Change Day, this annual event started off 6 or 7 years ago now, maybe even longer, I think.
I think I've been involved in all of them.
Yeah, where the NHS started off pledging, what can I do as an individual to change things? Still running. This year, and for the last 2 or 3 years, Fab has hosted this and been the repository for people to put either their pledges or their outcomes. This year, we're trying to make it really, really simple, as you say. So you don't have to share, you don't have to type stuff into the website. If you want to share a voice note, or you want to share a film on your telephone of you explaining what your problem was and how you solved it within your ward or department, and upload it, I'll put all the pretty bits around it and upload it to the website. So for Fab Change Day, people can send voice memos, they can send films, not YouTube mega NHS England standard films.
Just grab a phone and
grab
do
a
it.
phone,
JFDI.
tell us, and I'll put the title, and we'll embed it on the page. And on Fab Change Day, we will be tweeting every 5 minutes. There will be a tweet to a new piece of work that people are sharing on new solutions. So
that's
And
extraordinary.
to make it as easy as possible, we've made a template. So if you do want to do a little poster and you've never done one before, we've got the kind of, what was your problem? What did you do about it? What were the challenging bits? What would you like to tell other people? We've made a really simple template, but people can upload their own PowerPoint presentations, their own posters if they've done them already. So just trying to make it simple. You don't have to have leader. You don't have to have QI lead, research lead, quality and development lead on your badge. We all can do this. And if we share it, then that just means that our little thing is amplified across the country as other people learn from it, and it becomes a really, really big thing. And as you know, Jill, we've always said the little things are the big things.
Isn't that the L in blonde? We never got back to blonde.
Okay, yeah, blonde. Blonde. Big it up. Tell people about what you're doing. Your managers are not telepathic. Tell them what you and your service does. L, little things are the big things. Don't be put off thinking this isn't a randomised controlled trial, or I haven't followed the Prince project methodology for planning it out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Little things make a big difference. Don't be embarrassed about them. Take any opportunity, that's the O in blonde, to talk about what you do. You talking about your service is you advocating for patients. As nurses, we love to say we're patients' advocates. So talk up about the challenges for them, the areas of your service that you could improve to improve things for patients. The N in blonde is never, ever give up. Don't give up. No doesn't mean never. Find another way. Find another way to communicate why it's important you do this. At the Homerton, I asked for something. It took 3 annual reports, multiple conversations before there was a light bulb moment, and they went, you need these 2 people to do. Yes, and then I got them. 3 years. If I'd have given up, that change for patients wouldn't have happened. But never ever give up. So BLOND, D, determined. We've already explained that. Don't give up. And E, energize. By sharing, you will energize others. You will energize your team, who will be proud that you've shared their work. And you will energize your colleagues working throughout the NHS and social care, who right now, with what everybody has been through with the pandemic, they need your energy. So
they really do.
Be blonde.
Yeah. Be blonde, yeah. And that energise is so strong. And when we get round to doing our pledges at the end of our workshops, I can't believe the way the room lights up as people share, that they actually realise that they individually can do something. They're not waiting for like the top 3 things on your table and all this rubbish. It's like, you are passionate about something. What can you do about it? And people are owning it. It's brilliant. Absolutely. So Terri, let's put this episode out on Fab Change
Day, yeah, November the 24th. Wow, that would be amazing if we could do that.
That would be amazing. Let's do that on the day. And I think
Perfect.
there's a lot of messages here that people can really take and run with. So, Terri, that's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been a wonderful opportunity, and nothing gives me more pleasure than talking about the amazing work that people do on the Academy of Fab stuff, and their humility and pride in sharing so that others can benefit. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
And your passion shines through. It really does. We need more blondes. Let's all be blonde.
But don't forget, it's a state of mind, not a hair colour.
Remember that. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Jill.
Okay, thank you. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. If so, please subscribe now to hear more of these fascinating conversations on your favourite podcast platform. And please leave a review. I tweet as Whose Shoes. Thank you for being on this journey with me, and let's hope that together we can make a difference.